Johanna, very good evening to you and thanks for your time. Do you think that extending the deployment or extending the presence of the SANDF is going to bring some result to what we're seeing happening in the Western Cape, in particular the Cape Flats and the problems that they are trying to target in those areas?
Well, good evening. I think, if the military is deployed in a proper sense, we know that Mr. Windy, the Premier, already said that with the current deployment, there certainly were a number of shortcomings. And I think if they are able to deal with those shortcomings and ensure that the military is properly deployed, not just in the so-called hotspot areas, but the way in which they are deployed and what they are targeted for, then I think it could certainly contribute to developing a much safer situation on the Cape Flats.
All right, so our reporters have been out on the ground, Johan, speaking to residents themselves to see, what their experiences have been like with 2 months having the SANDF there. And they say, yes, for the few hours or the time that the SANDF is visible or police are visible, yes, you do see the streets are quieter, but the bad guys come out as soon as they've left. So what needs to happen? Do we need them to be visible 24/7, to be patrolling the streets 24/7? And but that can't be a permanent solution to this problem.
No, definitely not a permanent solution. You see, I think what needs to happen, given the fact that the military was deployed in the first instance, not just because it was called for by the political leadership in the Western Cape, but it was called for by those affected communities. So that is the one thing. And I think what we now see is a lot of disappointment in some of those communities because the presence of the military did not deliver the kind of results that most people expected. But I'm certain there would be mixed feelings about this. I think the authorities in the Western Cape, both the police and the military and the political leadership, certainly must have learned a number of lessons from this past deployment. What you need to do is you need to have a focused deployment of the military in the affected areas. They won't be able to provide a presence all over the Western Cape. The police, and especially with the intelligence that is hopefully available, but I think there are many that should be able to guide the police in this regard, they should target the real hotspot areas, and there needs to be concerted operations in those areas. To deal with, not just to bring calm and stability, as we've said before, but to focus on the identified criminals. The police know who they are. Yes. Community leaders know who these people are. So focus on them, focus on the problems that they are dealing in: drugs, firearms, and so forth. So I think this is what is needed on the Cape Flats.
Yeah, Johan, it sounds, and other experts have also said it, and what you're saying sounds like police need to have a crime intelligence plan. You need to be able to infiltrate. But we've seen, and we've had government admit just last week with the xenophobic attacks that we've seen, is that crime intelligence has actually failed. We don't actually have the capability. So if that is the plan that we need, but we don't have the capability, how do we get that done?
Yeah, we know crime intelligence is not performing as they should, but there are officials within crime intelligence that certainly can make a contribution. Those involved, you have the gang units, you have community-based organizations, you have research that is available. I think the combined effort of all of those involved, they know what the problems are, they know where the problems are, they know who is responsible for those problems. So by combining the information, if we do not want to refer to this as intelligence, then, the information about these problems and the problem people are available. You just need a concerted effort to bring all of those together and then plan on the basis of that kind of information you have. So if you don't want to call it intelligence-led operations, then at least it is information-led operations. But it is available. I will not be convinced that those individuals, those gangsters and other crime leaders, crime bosses, are unknown in those areas and unknown to community-based organizations and to community police forums, for example, and to specialized units such as the gang unit. That information is available. All they now need to do is pull that information and plan according to what they have.
And I think, Johan, we also need to look at who do they have on their payroll when it comes to whether it's police, whether it comes to community leaders, whether it comes to government officials, whether it comes to MECs and ministers, because let's face it, we know that stuff like that happens as well, and that's how they get away with it.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. You see, this is why I said right from the start that part of the deployment of the military must be to create space for the police, the anti-corruption units and other specialized units within the police service, the detectives, to address the problems that communities have with the police. And those problems relate to distrust of the police. It relates to police corruption. Many community members have accused over the years the police of colluding with these gangs, with other criminals, that they even provide these criminal groups with information ahead of police operations. So use the time and space created by the military presence to deal with those issues and to restore public confidence in the police. It's not an easy thing to do, but you have to start somewhere. Thanks
very much for that, Johan Burger from the Institute for Security Studies from the Crime and Justice Division.